Vietnam War lasted from 1955 to 1975. And during that time, well over 50 young men from Calhoun County made the ultimate sacrifice in that war. The Red, White, and Blue Foundation of Calhoun County is bringing a 3/4 scale replica of the Vietnam Memorial Wall to Battle Creek. It's called the Wall That Heals. And this will be the only time this exhibit will be in the state of Michigan this year. So in tribute to this event, I thought it would be helpful to share some of the stories of 5 different young men who made the ultimate sacrifice from Calhoun County and give you some of their stories so that you can put it into context and perhaps put it on your calendar to visit the Vietnam Memorial replica that's coming to the Harper Creek High School here in Battle Creek.
The first story I'm going to share with you is that of a young man who grew up in Battle Creek and also in Indianapolis. Hosy Chapel was born in Mobile, Alabama in 1943, and in 1952 he moved with his mother to Battle Creek at the age of 9. His mother described him as a happy-go-lucky boy who was just an all-around good boy. Before joining the Marine Corps, he divided his time between his mother's home in Battle Creek and his father's in Indianapolis, Indiana. As a young athlete, he was a Golden Gloves champion in Indiana and continued his passion for boxing while in the Marine Corps. Before going over to Vietnam, he toured with the Marine Corps boxing troupe. His mother estimated he was sent over to Vietnam in May of 1965 because that was when he sent his record player home. From January 28th to February 17th, 1966, the U.S. Marine Corps launched Operation Double Eagle with the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, ARVM, in the Quang Ngai province. The 23-year-old Corporal Chapel was among the forward elements of Marines who made an amphibious landing on the first day of the operation, about 325 miles north of Saigon. Their objective was to seek out and destroy North Vietnamese regular troops and hardcore Viet Cong units operating in the Quang Ngai province, which was a communist stronghold. Hosy Chapel's unit, the 2nd Battalion of the 5th Marines, was engaged in the action against the enemy after landing about 5 miles southeast of Thatch True from crafts supported by the 7th Fleet. During the assault, he sustained a gunshot wound to his left shoulder, and he later died from his injuries on Sunday, January 30th. His parents were notified by telegram on February 1st, and his body was sent home. On February 8th, 1966, he was buried with full military honors at Oak Hill Cemetery in Battle Creek. He was the first serviceman from Battle Creek to die in Vietnam. 2 months later, in March 1966, Battle Creek saw its second son fall during the Vietnam War. Danny Higgs was a former Penfield High School student who was a standout athlete for 3 years. In his senior year, he made the All-Serial Conference baseball team as a catcher and played as a tackle on the Panthers football team. From the age of 13, he had worked in his father's service station part-time for money, so he was not only well known in his school, but also within the community. He also grew up being an active member of the Boy Scouts. A 6-footer, Danny weighed 190 pounds when he enlisted in the Marine Corps on March 28, 1965, at the Detroit recruiting station. He went overseas following basic training in October of that year and spent 4 months in Okinawa before arriving in Vietnam in January of 1966. He was with Company I, 3rd Battalion of the 1st Marine Division. He wrote weekly letters home to his parents, which they described overall as being cheerful. In his letters, he never offered any opinions as to why he was fighting in Vietnam. He told them his main occupation was hunting VCs and that he was feeling tired. His family said he once gave the impression he had a touch of jungle fever, but he never reported it as he was apprehensive he would be evacuated to a hospital. In his final letters, he mentioned to his parents he had lost 10 pounds while serving in Vietnam and was down to about 175. On Friday, March 4th, 1966, the Marine Corps launched Operation Utah with the ARVN in the northwest of Quang Ngai, a mountain city. This would be Danny's second major action against the Viet Cong. His unit had previously taken part in Operation Double Eagle, the same amphibious landing that Hosy Chapel had taken part in. Operation Utah was the roughest combat to that point in the war. On the third day of the operation, on Sunday, PFC Danny Higgs was killed when he was struck by a fragment from an exploding mortar shell, artillery shell, or perhaps a mine. The officer reporting it was not certain on the source of the shrapnel. His body was sent home later that same month, and over 500 people filled the Presbyterian church to honor the fallen hero. He was buried with full military honors at Reese Cemetery on March 15, 1966. He was the first native of Battle Creek to die in the Vietnam War. When he had enlisted, he had told his pastor that he had hoped to return home from the war and become a coach. In October of that same year, his classmates at Penfield High School would gather and present a memorial plaque to be displayed at the high school, which bore the inscription, "In memory of Danny Higgs, who sacrificed his life in battle Operation Utah near the city of Quang Ngai, Vietnam on March 6, 1966. William T. Craig was a 1965 graduate of Lakeview High School, where he was a member of the Jets Club, Spanish Club, and Chess Club. He attended Michigan State University for 2 years before entering service with the Army in October 1967. He attended non-commissioned officer school at Fort McClellan, Alabama, and also airborne infantry school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and later advanced training at Fort Polk, Louisiana. He achieved the rank of sergeant and was assigned along with his unit to Vietnam. He had been in Vietnam since October 1968, serving with the 101st Airborne Division, 503rd Infantry. He was killed on March 8, 1969, during military operations. He had been hit with fragments from an exploding booby trap while he was out on patrol. He was buried with full military honors at Beckley Cemetery. In July of that year, he was posthumously awarded the Bronze Star Medal for Heroism and the Purple Heart for fatal wounds suffered in combat. Sergeant Craig's name was later inscribed on a memorial plaque at Lakeview High School. Stephen K. Brandenburg was serving with the Marines in Vietnam. He was born in Kokomo, Indiana, and graduated from Marion, Indiana High School. He had frequently spent time in Battle Creek because his mother and sister lived here. He was also a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He was serving as an arc welder for the Welders Division as part of a maintenance company. He was stationed near the Da Nang Air Force Base. There were not many details available on how he died. He had been working near the Da Nang River harbor in the Quang Ngai province on Monday, August 19, 1968, when he was struck in the forehead with a fragment from a mortar shell. His body was later recovered from the river harbor after the shelling. He was sent home to Battle Creek, and services were held at the Seventh-day Adventist Tabernacle, and he was buried with full military honors at Memorial Park Cemetery. Thomas Kelley was a graduate of Athens High School and later attended Kellogg Community College. He enlisted in the Army in March of 1966, and he trained at Fort Gordon, Georgia, where he would eventually become a paratrooper stationed with the 101st Airborne Division in Vietnam. On July of 1967, he had been wounded twice and was on rest and recuperation leave in Hawaii when his parents flew there to visit him. He had been first wounded by a hand grenade in November of 1966, and the second time by bamboo spikes in the spring of 1967. He had been awarded the Purple Heart Medal with an oak leaf cluster for the wounds that he'd received in action the first time. He was awarded a second Purple Heart in 1967, but refused to accept it, perhaps fearing it would mean he would be discharged from his tour of duty. At the time of his parents visiting him, he had a case of malaria and was due to be rotated back to the U.S. in October. His father, who worked for Eaton, Yale, and Town in Battle Creek, and his mother, who worked for the Michigan Carton Company, had both flown to Hawaii to see him, as he had been overseas for almost a year at that point. On August 27, 1967, he was back in Vietnam on duty, and his platoon was engaged heavily with a Viet Cong force firing from a well-concealed position in the jungle. One particular machine gun was inflicting heavy casualties on the 101st Airborne Division unit. The following was reported later by officers who witnessed the events of that day. Thomas completely disregarded his own safety and assaulted the gun position. He placed effective fire on the position, but when he neared it, he fell seriously wounded. Undaunted by his wound and displaying gallantry of the highest magnitude, he crawled forward through the brutal fire until he got close enough to the enemy to throw a grenade which destroyed the emplacement and killed the insurgents. A few minutes later, he was again wounded by a burst of machine gun fire, this time fatally. This information was all taken from an official military citation which was presented to his parents in November of that year. It also stated Thomas Kelley never relented in his task of resisting the enemy by all means available. A ceremony was held at the Federal Center with his parents and two sisters when they were presented with his citation, and he was posthumously awarded the Silver Star. After his death in the field, his body was sent back to Battle Creek, first by air to Chicago, and then arriving on the Grand Trunk Railroad. Services were held at the First Methodist Church in East Leroy, and he was buried with full military honors at Mather Cemetery aside his grandparents and great-grandparents. The Calhoun County Red, White, and Blue Foundation, on July 14th through July 17th, 2022, is bringing the Wall That Heals exhibit to Battle Creek, which is a 3/4 scale replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., along with a mobile education center. The exhibit will be at Harper Creek High School, and it will be the only location that it will be on display in Michigan in 2022. On that wall will be the names of Hosy Chapel, Danny Higgs, William Craig, Stephen K Brandenburg, and Thomas Kelley, along with almost 50 other names of young men who made the ultimate sacrifice during the Vietnam War from Calhoun County. I hope you will take time to visit this exhibit while he is here in town.
So that's going to conclude this video, and I'm going to ask you to do something that I quite often ask people to do when they see my videos. But this time it's more important than ever. I'm going to ask you to hit the like button down there. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. Tell me what you thought about the video. Give me your thoughts on the Vietnam War, whatever you want to say. And I'm also going to ask you to share this video with others. Because the more likes and comments a video gets, the more it gets boosted up in the YouTube algorithms, which means a lot more people get to see it. And I think it's very important that people in Michigan get to know that this exhibit is coming to their state, and it will be the only time it's on display here in this state this year. And it's a great way to honor veterans. It's also a great way to educate people about the history of that war and the sacrifices that were made, not only in your own local community of those that are seeing this from Calhoun County, but all across the state and all across the nation, and the thousands and thousands of men's name and women that are on that wall. So please do that, and thanks for watching.